Viagra was first launched in 1998 by Pfizer, and it's generally associated with older men keeping the dream alive by getting doctors' prescriptions to combat erectile dysfunction. However, this is all changing.
Start first of all, Viagra. Across the counter you can buy this today, over the counter.
Yeah, it's become available today. It's sort of about £5 per pill.
And Viagra is back in the news.
Indeed it is. Now applying to have this over the counter.
In its first 12 weeks after release, Viagra Connect sold just under £4.5 million worth of product. It has become so big in the UK that new online brands now rely almost exclusively on selling it. So what I'd like to do now is go through some of the sites that actually offer this service, that actually sell Viagra and deliver it to your door. There are some staple brands like Superdrug and Boots, which, as I said, deliver to your door. But then other pages which focus almost exclusively on men's health products and on erectile dysfunction pills, like, for example, Hims. This is the front page right here, and as you can see immediately, it's showing me their three main products. It's hair loss, erectile dysfunction, and skincare. And just the way that the website is designed, it's, in my opinion, clearly marketing to millennials and to Gen Z. As you can see, it's very bright, vibrant colours. It's got photos of happy, healthy, young, good-looking men everywhere. It's almost trying to normalise the fact that people who likely don't experience ED, people who are aged 18 and up, it's trying to normalise them getting treatment for it. Some of these online stores that sell the pill, like for example Newman Health or Hims, want their customers to sign up to a weekly or a monthly treatment. So instead, I've come here to my local on-street pharmacy to buy Viagra Connect. In essence, I really want to demonstrate how easy it is for me, a perfectly healthy 21-year-old, to purchase it. I wanted to buy like Viagra Connect. Okay, so I had to come back to the pharmacy an hour later. The lady that was in at the time wasn't senior enough to actually sell me the Viagra. I met with the more senior pharmacist, sat down, filled out a questionnaire for about 5 minutes, said that I sometimes experienced symptoms of erectile dysfunction, and I got the Viagra Connect. I spoke to Josh and Dylan, two young men that rely on the pill, to see why they feel the need to take it in the first place.
Hi, I'm Dylan, I'm 21, I've been using Viagra for like 6 months now.
I'm Josh Rayner, I'm 20 years old. When I was like 18, I was doing a lot of drugs. Me and my ex used to go out. I used to take ecstasy like quite regularly, a lot more than I should have been doing at least, and I basically used Viagra to like compensate for not being able to get it up, which is pretty embarrassing, but I didn't really know what else to do at the time.
So I was with a girl and I was quite nervous. I was trying to get it up, but I just couldn't, and that kind of scarred me in my head. So ever since then, I've been kind of like, it's been like an easy way out to just use Viagra. So I say like porn kind of paints a picture of sex that isn't actually realistic, and society as a whole kind of puts too much pressure on men to perform.
So do you feel like is it just anxiety that's the main problem with?
Yeah. It's kind of like it's a negative kind of cycle of using it and then needing it, and it's hard to get out of.
And how do you feel is the best way for you to stop using it? Is it to talk to your partner, or do you need to just get confidence in yourself? What's the way out?
Maybe having a bit of a more stable lifestyle, like having a solid partner to fall back on, and kind of easing off it.
So do many people know you take this, or what?
I kind of only tell like my close friends, and I really tell the girl that I'm with that I'm doing it, just because it's quite like emasculating. I try to keep it to myself a bit.
So you've been taking Viagra for 2 years. You said you started doing it when you were doing ecstasy. Do you still do it to this day, and do you only mix it with ecstasy, or do you just take it regularly?
Yeah, I mean, ecstasy is like the only mind state where like I need it, but I can also tend to use it quite a lot with sober, like drunk. I kind of use it as just something to like fall back on generally. I have this like weird psychosomatic thing where like if I start thinking about not being able to get up, then I can't get it up. So I just tend to just rely on it even when I'm not like on ecstasy.
Have you ever actually been into a pharmacy to buy Viagra Connect from an actual reliable source?
I've bought from a pharmacy like once, but the dealer I've got is always stronger, it's cheaper, it's just a lot more easy, convenient. Like I don't really want the embarrassment of going into a shop as like someone who looks as young as I do and asking for Viagra, so it's just a lot easier to just do it like that for me.
Are you addicted to Viagra?
Nah, I wouldn't. I'd say reliant. I'm not addicted. Like I don't think it is even physically addictive.
So do you use it every single time? Do you use it even that often?
I mean, most times, yeah, but like that's just like a reliance thing rather than an addiction. Like it's not like I wake up in the morning and think, oh, I want some Viagra. Like it's just convenient. I mean, right now I'm just kind of trying to enjoy like my 20s. Like if I think it's helping me, then I don't really see a reason to stop. If it's being sold in like pharmacies and stuff, like I don't really see how it could be that problematic if you can just buy it without any sort of like proper prescription or anything. I guess like a lot of old men do it anyway, so by the time it gets to that point, I'll probably have needed it even if I wasn't doing it now. It just means I just don't have to worry. Like it just takes that stress away, which is probably bad. I probably should just start like actually forcing myself into these situations rather than just constantly falling back on it.
It would seem that anxiety surrounding sexual performance and also drug use are the leading factors in why these men feel the need to take Viagra. An article published in the Scientific Journal in 2016 suggests that men who view pornography may need to progressively increase sexual stimulation to feel and remain aroused. I spoke to Daryl Mead, chair of the Reward Foundation, from where the late Gary Wilson researched and co-authored the paper.
Well, pornography slowly changes sexual functioning in teens and adults. At the individual and population levels, the more people watch porn and the longer they do it for, the more impact it tends to have on physical and mental health. It's not a thing that you watch porn today, you have a problem tomorrow. That's not how it generally works. You watch porn today, you have a problem in a year, 5 years, or 10 years. Erectile dysfunction used to be an old man's problem. Only about 2 or 3% of young men had any form of erectile dysfunction. But a recent series of studies suggests that today it's around 30% of men under 40 have an erectile problem. The key change has been that men are now masturbating to unlimited quantities of free porn from the internet, and it is starting to have an impact on their sexual health.
So do you think there's anything that can be done to reduce performance anxiety brought along by viewing pornographic content, or is that really just more down to the individual who's experiencing that anxiety?
The simplest thing to do to remove the performance anxiety from watching porn is to stop watching porn. It's not permanent damage. All brains are plastic. If you can learn to induce sexual dysfunction in yourself by a behavior, you can unlearn the same behavior. You can stop doing the behavior, your body will go back to its normal set point.
Do you think that taking Viagra as a solution for temporary ED brought on by pornographic use is actually a viable solution?
Essentially, there is a lot of anecdotal evidence on the pornography recovery forums that men with porn-induced erectile dysfunction, which we also call PIED, they will not get long-term benefits from Viagra. Ultimately, if you want your sexual functioning back, you've got to cut the porn out.
I wanted to speak to a medical professional who deals with erectile dysfunction to discover what the dangers of taking unprescribed Viagra were. What are some of the possible long-term or even short-term effects, side effects that young men could have when they're taking Viagra without it being prescribed properly?
The most important side effect is something called priapism, which is a persistent erection in the absence of sexual stimulation. If it does happen, it needs urgent medical attention. Effectively, what a priapism means is that you have an erection that is very rigid and there is no blood flowing in or out of the penis. So there is no oxygenated blood coming in, so the erectile tissues then become deprived of oxygen and they gradually die over a period of 6 to 8 hours if it's not relieved. So a priapism is not without consequences. Even if you manage to salvage the situation, a fraction or proportion of the erectile tissues will have been lost. So some patients who develop priapism go on to then get erectile dysfunction long term. And whereas it's other people who have no erectile dysfunction, I would say, please, that, it's a big risk taking these drugs because you're risking getting ocular changes, eye changes, long-term blindness sort of problems, but most importantly, or more importantly, in this context we're discussing, priapism and potentially loss of erectile function long-term. So you do need to see somebody about it, whether it's a psychosexual counselor for psychogenic erectile dysfunction or your GP. So this is called a penile prosthesis, and there are two main types of them. You've got the semi-rigid ones, which are these, and the penis is made up of the shaft and the head, and the shaft is where the erectile tissues are housed. And what we would do is replace those erectile tissues with these cylinders, and they sit inside the penis, and what you do is when you want to have sex, you push it up. When you've had sex, you push it down. The ideal prosthesis, which is this inflatable device. So it's called a three-piece inflatable device, and the reason it's three pieces, you've got the first piece, which is the cylinders, a bit like the cylinders of the semi-rigid. You've got the pump, which sits between the testicles, and the reservoir, which sits inside the abdomen. And the way it works is, in the flaccid state, it's quite bendy and soft like a normal penis should be. But when you want to have sex, you pump it up, and fluid shifts from the reservoir into the cylinders and makes it hard. And when it's completely full, you'll see it's much harder. You can then have intimacy with your partner, and you deflate it by pressing these two buttons like so and squeezing it, and what you'll see is this is filling up because the fluid is now shifting back from the penis into the reservoir, and then it goes back soft. And this is the long-term problem, 20-something-year-old lads who've come in having taken these drugs, get priapism, end up with this, and this is the way they'll have sex for the rest of their lives, these devices. So the long-term consequences of short-term gain.
I don't want to use it for like my whole life. It's kind of like while I'm young, and yeah, I think in a few years I'll probably stop, but for now I'm going to keep using it.
I mean, I think, and I've always planned that when I leave uni, that's when I'll stop. I mean, I'm kind of relying on the idea that I find a girl who I'm comfortable enough that I can tell them what my problem is, and then hopefully the worry issue will just go away. But for now, I'm just trying to do it for a couple more years. Once I'm done with uni, then I don't think I'll be doing it anymore, but it's hard to say.
Young men are turning to Viagra in increasing numbers, and therefore opening themselves up to potential short and long-term health risks. Pornography and marketing aimed specifically at this demographic isn't helping with this problem. It seems that the best way forward for these people is to make themselves open and to be somewhat vulnerable by talking to their partners about their problem and solving their issues together.